Hi there, it's a lovely sunny Sunday morning, and what breakfast wouldn't be complete without lovely black pudding? And that is exactly what we are going to be making here today, some fantastic English black pudding. Now in this country you cannot get the pig's blood anymore because of the regulations unless you kill your own pig, so what we're using is some fantastic dried blood. If you look in there, there's 500 grams of oats which I've soaked overnight. There's 500 grams of pearl barley which I've just boiled for 40 minutes. I've got 500 grams of good quality pork back fat off that pig. I'm going to use 1.25 litres of water. I've got 3 onions which I've finely diced. I'm going to drop a bit of brandy in, and then when we get on a bit we're going to make up the spice mix. So with this being English black pudding then, we do use a lot of cereal. I mean, if you were making a French Boudin.Blood, you know, it would be cream. There wouldn't be so many cereals, there might be a little bit of binding in there. But as this is an original English recipe, we're going to be using these lovely cereals. So the first thing we're going to do then is we're going to start sweating down this onion in a little bit of its own pork fat. So, get a little bit of fat. Like I said, I've got about 500 grams of fat here, and I'm just going to dice a few little bits, about 100 grams. Just get it gently rendering down. Obviously, if we use the pork fat, it's pig's blood as well. You know, we're keeping all those flavours, building up that lovely porky flavour. And we'll get that in. Start it rendering. I'm going to start it in this pan so you can see the process, but obviously when we add all the liquids and the cereals, I shall change up to a bigger pan because it won't fit in, and we don't want blood all over the place. It look like Motley Crue's bedroom. So let's get that gently ticking over. So while that's just gently rendering, this is the main ingredient, this lovely back fat, and this will run all through the black pudding. So you want to cut some nice small dice. Yeah, it is fiddly, but you know, it's worth it. And obviously because you've got to put it through a funnel, you want it quite small, so you're looking for pieces like that. You know, just take your time, put the radio on, have a cup of tea, and just gently start preparing your fat, which when you cut through the black pudding to eat it, you'll see all these lovely pieces of porky prime fat. So I rendered some fat out, took the lumps out, and then just put our onions in, sweat them down, like I said, no colour, just until they go translucent. So on the back here I've got my onions sweating down nicely, they're nearly done. On the front here I've got a pan of water boiling, I've added some salt, and here's my fantastic pile, 500 grams of diced pork back fat. And is life too short to chop back fat on a Sunday morning for anything else but this? Yes. All we're going to do is drop that in there. We're just going to blanch it just for a couple of minutes. And what that will do is when you cut through your black pudding, that will keep your fat nice and white. So just a couple of minutes then, and it'll all tighten up. And then we'll start building it, get the blood out. So there's my pork fat, I've blanched it. I'm just going to empty that out. As you can see, that's made it lovely pearly white. Right, it's time to sort the blood out and let's get building. Right, let's get our blood made. So I've got some dried blood here, and it's 1 part dried blood to 6 parts liquid. So I want 1.5 litres. So I'm going to put 250 grams, about there, of the dried pig's blood into my bowl. Then I'm going to fill that bowl up with 1.5 litres of cold water. So I've added my liquid, and all you do is stir until all the lumps are gone. What a beautiful colour that is. I love the smell of pig's blood in the morning. Give it a good stir, make sure all the lumps are gone. Then we're going to get the big pot out then, and we're going to add all these ingredients together, and we're just going to gently cook it out Then we'll make up our spice mix, our seasoning mix, add in the brandy. Beautiful. Right, so I've changed it to that bigger pan so we can see what we're doing. So in there, my pork fat, into the onions, let that get to know each other. And then the pearl barley, get that in. And that's what you see when you cut into a ring of English black pudding, those lovely little nobules, pearl barley. And then in with our oats, 500 grams of oats that we soaked overnight. And the star of the show, I've got blood on my hands, man, a pig's blood. And all we're going to do now is just cook this out gently for 15 minutes. And in the meantime, I shall get the seasoning mixture made up. Right then, for my seasoning mix, I want 20 grams of salt, that'll do, 10 grams of ground coriander, 10 grams of dried sage, 10 grams of dried mace, and 10 grams, I'm using white pepper. I put a bit more in because it needs to be peppery. And that just goes into that bubbling how cauldron. In with our mix, give that a stir up. I'm going to drop in some brandy. Have it. Smells. Just give it a taste. Wow, lovely. Give that a few more minutes then, and then we will put it into the hog casings. Oh, that's lovely. Right, now comes the fun part. We are going to stuff our casings. Now I'm using hog's casings, the bigger one you can get, and I'm going to use one of the stuffing tubes. You can use any kind of funnel you want. Just put it over the end a little bit. I'm going to tie that off, get rid of all the excess water out of it. Come on, you beauty. And then I fashioned a funnel out of a pop bottle. So we tie the end off, make sure the end's tied off, man. Makes your kitchen look like Lucky Lawless in a wasp video. So make sure you keep a hold of that. You can also put some string around that. Get your funnel on. Take some of the mix, drop it in. And you help it on its way. It starts filling up your casings. Look at that. Beautiful. Take some more. So you must make sure that you can get all the ingredients in, obviously. Just help it. It slides down to the bottom. Make sure the casing's out, you know, got no hole in. So all I'm going to do now is just gently ease that down. I don't want no air in it. So you just fill it until your case is full, and obviously you don't want it too full because it'll burst. And obviously not too little, else it won't fill the casing. So that's what it wants to look like. Now you don't want them too full, so you've just got to pretty much weigh it up. Wants to be a bit of room in there so you can always push it along. Because the likelihood of one of these bursting is quite high, so I'm just going to tie it off, and then so on and so forth. So on and so forth. Dear boy. Tie that one about there. And as you can see, we're starting to get these lovely black pudding rings. So if we go back to the start then, so you want to put a string in between those, pull that tight, because obviously we can cut there, and if it all goes according to plan, we got a black pudding. Fantastic. So I'll carry on and do these, then we'll get on and show you how to cook them. How good do those beauties look? So there's some of the traditional way. I'm also going to make like a blood cake. So I'm going to put a mix in this tray, and I shall cook this in the oven. I'm going to have two different kinds. The smell is absolutely amazing. Now this is the tricky part now, cooking these, because if there's any air bubbles in there, they'll burst. I mean, you'll lose some anyway through bursting, but you want the water to be between 170 to 180 Fahrenheit, but you want to keep it there. So if you look in the pan, there's just a few bubbles showing, so it's not even a simmer. Just keep it nice and gentle, and we'll place one in. It should take about 20 minutes to cook. I'm going to place another in, and just keep an eye on them. And now and again, you know, after 10 minutes, give them a prick with a pin, and that'll release all the pressure. For my blood cake then, I've got it in that tin. You can hear the kettle on because we're going to cook this in a bain-marie. So, lightly grease some oil. And on top, I've set the oven to gas mark 3. You look up there for the conversion. And all I'm going to do is sit that in a cooking tin with some boiling water halfway up in the oven, gas mark 3. So we're 10 minutes in, and as you can see, if you leave that string long, you leave it over the top of your saucepan, just with a toothpick or a needle, tiny holes just to release any pressure that would be in there, because you don't want them to split. You know, it took all that time. You want them to come out perfect, but they are looking so far amazing. So then, that's within 25 minutes, and that's cooked. Fantastic. Just give it a little prick. No blood's coming out. So on to the next batch. So there you have it. Got my blood cake in the oven, just finishing off, and these are what you get. They've cooled to a nice dark black. They're still a bit warm, but I'm going to cook some. Just look at that. All that lovely fat and the barley. Fantastic. And that's how it should look. What we're going to do in the pan, fry a couple of slices off and give it a taste. So folks, this is what we've been building up to. This is my lovely homemade black pudding. Not long finished. You just look, fried it off. It's fantastic. Tastes absolutely brilliant. That's better than shop bought. And you know, that's straight out the boiler pretty much and fried. Keep that in your fridge for a day to mature. It'll be epic. Oh yeah. That fat, barley. Beautiful. Thanks for watching. See you again. I'm going to eat all this. What a shame. Try.